I just want to ask us as a people, how are we going to advance in our relationships to one another when there is an absolute unwillingness to engage with one side's viewpoint in an accurate fashion? I do my best to understand Tawheed, to accurately define it, to accurately represent what the Quran says in its historical context. And yet, over and over again, even though I've written an entire book on the doctrine of the Trinity, it is actually quite easy to understand. It is misrepresented constantly. Why? How can we get anywhere in actually interacting with one another when there is no willingness to allow one side to define what it actually believes, but to insist upon misrepresenting? I think one of the reasons is the author of the Quran was ignorant of what the doctrine of the Trinity was and misrepresented it. And that's why we have the issues we have. That means it couldn't have been Allah who wrote the Quran. It was a man who did not understand. It was a man who orchestrated the events to allow himself to marry the divorced wife of his formerly adopted son. It was a man. That's what the issue is. We just heard, for example, just did a debate on the issue of whether the Quran is eternal. And I think what we've been told is that the very text of the Quran could be changed depending upon the limited free will actions of man. I think that pretty well answers where we are now on that issue. That is not what Al-Tabari and the others believed. So there's been a change. There's been an evolution. Fine. That's within your communion. You answer that. What did the grossly false, super offensive, and I don't care what you believe, I'm going to misrepresent you accusation of cosmic child abuse have to do with our subject tonight? Why even bring it up? It's grossly false. I've already pointed out it's false. Jesus said specifically, and I forgot to start my timer, Jesus said specifically, "No one takes my life from me, I lay it down of my own accord." Philippians chapter 2 said he made himself of no reputation. He humbled himself. This is what Jesus did. That is not cosmic child abuse. That is the second person of the Trinity doing exactly what he intended to do from eternity past. Now, why would anyone, therefore, make a statement like that in a debate which can only inflame emotions and is simply dishonest? I know Shabir said it. Shabir was wrong to say it. There's an evangelical writer in London. That's where he got it from. That's what he said. But it's a gross misrepresentation. So why is it that one side, and there are people on my side that do the same thing, I get it, but I try to avoid those very standard, common, you'd call them missionary type statements that misrepresent the best of what Islam has to say. But we don't get that in return. Why? I wanted this debate this evening to add to, and it has, and I'm thankful to Yusuf for that. It has added to the realm of the discussions that we are talking about. And I think the next step should be those Sunni Muslims who hold the old line perspective on the Quran, you all need to be discussing this. Maybe there needs to be a debate within on this particular subject, because it isn't just a secondary issue. It impacts the form of tafsir and everything else, and you know that. But in our interactions with one another, I want further dialogue to take place, but if it's going to take place and accomplish something, it has to be undertaken on the part of Muslims and Christians that are doing everything they can to accurately represent the other side. Not just simply to win debating points, not just simply to inflame emotion. And that's why I said what I said to the brother, and I say it out of love to him. He wasn't listening to my answer because he didn't care. And I care enough about him to say, you need to think about that. Because when I listen to what Yusuf says, I have taken what he said 3 years ago, and I have spoken on the subject of Islam in light of that. And what I'll do is I'll say, some Muslims say this, some Muslims say that, to try to be accurate, because that's what people who love the truth do. And that's what all of us need to be. That's what all of us need to be. I know it was somewhat of an arcane subject. But we have to, if we care about one another, if we care about this continuing dialogue, we have to be truthful. We have to be accurate. I'm calling all of us to that. I hope you can agree with that. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I appreciate the attention you've given. Thank you very much.